Hey guys, grim news stat from the World Health Organization. Almost 15 million people have died as a result of this pandemic. But when you add up the death reports of individual countries around the world, that number only amounts to 5.4 million. So why the discrepancy? Well, one of the reasons is that many countries just aren't very good at counting deaths and figuring out how people died. For example, the World Health Organization estimates that India lost almost 5 million people to this pandemic, but India had originally reported less than 500,000 deaths from COVID disease. And the other reason is that this is not just a reflection of the people who actually died from COVID-19 disease, but it's a more broad reflection of the effect of the pandemic on overall deaths. That's because it's done through a statistic called excess mortality. So they look at the number of people who died over several years, and they use those data to project forward how many people would be expected to die in a typical year. And looking at 2021 and 2022, the number of people who actually died was larger than the number of people expected to die by about 15 million. And not all of those deaths were directly from COVID-19 disease. In fact, what this is reflecting is the overall impact of pandemic conditions. For example, during the pandemic, many people who were quite ill didn't want to seek medical help. They didn't want to go to hospital. And when they did present, it was often very late. And some of those people died who would not necessarily have died had we not been in a lockdown situation. On the other hand, during the pandemic, a lot fewer people were on the road, so we had a lot less pollution in the air, which meant that we saw fewer flare-ups of respiratory conditions like asthma and COPD. It reduces the chances of things like strokes and heart attacks. So all of those different things factor in how many people died as a result of the pandemic. And at the end of the day, when you account for all of that, almost 15 million people have died who wouldn't have died had we not had a pandemic. And counting.